Ever drive past like one of those skyscrapers, and they're still building them, and you just think like, how on earth? Like, how do they even get that off the ground?
It's amazing.
It's wild. So today's deep dive, we are talking about the masterminds behind all of those like concrete and steel, like giant behemoths, construction managers. We've got this awesome career guide from RoleCatcher, and let me tell you, it is not all like hard hats and blueprints.
Definitely not. It's way more than that. This career is really about like orchestrating this whole symphony of moving parts. You've got budgets, you've got building codes. It's a lot. And it takes a really unique blend of like technical expertise, but then also really strong people skills.
Okay, so the guide uses all these terms like planner, coordinator, overseer, but like what does that actually look like day to day for a construction manager?
Okay, so picture yourself as the conductor of an orchestra, right? But instead of instruments, you're coordinating architects. You've got engineers, contractors, all these different players. And your job is to create something amazing. So you're responsible for making sure everyone is on the same page, making sure everybody's hitting their cues, and that the project stays on track.
And on budget, right. Because one thing this guide mentions is like navigating tricky things like cost estimates, even way back during the design phase. That sounds like high stakes.
It is. And a huge part of the job is really understanding the financial implications of every single decision that's being made. So you're not just like saying yes to every design whim,
Yes.
right? You're thinking about, okay, what are the practicalities of this? What are the potential challenges? And how can we actually deliver the most value for the client's budget?
So this RoleCatcher guide, they get into all these industry trends, things like sustainable building, BIM, they even mention VR. Is all of that really impacting construction management like right now?
Absolutely. And these aren't just like buzzwords, okay? These are things that are really changing the game. So let's take building information modeling. BIM, for instance. It's revolutionizing how projects are planned and executed. Picture this. You can create a 3D digital model of the entire building before a single brick is laid.
Whoa, so it's like a virtual blueprint on steroids or something. What's so amazing about that?
It is. It really is like having X-ray vision for the entire project. So with BIM, you can spot potential issues before they become major headaches down the line. You can optimize the design to avoid costly rework. You can even like simulate how the construction process will unfold.
Wow.
We're talking about saving millions of dollars, potentially weeks of delays.
That's impressive. Okay, and what about VR? Is that just like a fancy sales tool, or can construction managers actually use that?
VR is becoming so valuable. Like, imagine this. You can walk a client through their building before it's even built, right?
Wow.
They can actually experience the space. And then if they want to make design changes, they can do it on the fly.
That's got to be a game changer. No more of that. Like, but I thought it would look different from the client after the fact.
Exactly. Exactly. And on top of that, imagine using VR to like train workers on safety procedures in a super realistic environment, but it's risk-free.
Start.
These technologies are really transforming the industry, and they're making construction managers even more essential on every project.
So we've established you need tech skills, budgeting skills,
Yeah.
and D people skills. What other qualities does the RoleCatcher guide highlight as being essential for a construction manager to like really succeed?
Problem solving is huge. Things rarely go exactly according to plan in construction.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to think on your feet, adapt to sudden changes, and then find really creative solutions when those unexpected things pop up.
Which is like always, right?
Always.
Every project's got its curveballs.
Exactly.
It's almost like you're a professional problem solver who just happens to be like really good at coordinating building projects.
That's a great way to put it. And then on top of that, you've got to have leadership skills. Decision-making is crucial. You're the captain of the ship. You're responsible for guiding your team, making big decisions that could impact the entire project timeline, the budget, the success of the whole thing.
And this guide really emphasizes also those, I guess, like those more classic traits, organization and attention to detail. And I feel like those are just amplified when you're literally talking about a construction site with so many moving parts.
Absolutely. You're managing contracts, you're coordinating multiple subcontractors, you're making sure that everything aligns with building codes, safety regulations. It's a lot to keep track of. So meticulous organization and like laser-focused attention to detail are non-negotiable.
Okay, this is all like super fascinating, but this guide is also like refreshingly honest about the downsides, long hours, crazy deadlines, stress levels that would make, I think, most people run for the hills. So what kind of person actually thrives in that kind of environment?
Resilience is key. You need to be able to handle pressure, not just survive it, but make decisions when things are really intense, and then also be able to bounce back from setbacks without losing your coolant.
So definitely not a career for the faint of heart. Okay, so let's talk career ladder. What does the RoleCatcher guide have to say about the different potential paths for construction managers?
It lays out a pretty clear progression. You're usually starting as an assistant, learning the ropes, and then you gradually take on more responsibility as you gain experience.
So it's kind of like an apprenticeship, but instead of learning a trade, you're learning how to manage these like incredibly complex projects.
Exactly. And then as you gain experience, you might start to lead your own projects. You might be negotiating contracts. Maybe you're overseeing entire departments. The guide actually breaks it down into three distinct career stages: entry level, junior construction manager, and then senior construction manager. And it outlines the typical responsibilities you'd have for each stage, which I thought was helpful.
That is helpful to like actually see it, broken down like that. Does the guide give any like real world examples of what someone at each stage might actually be doing?
Yeah, they have these sample profiles, which I thought were really cool. Like, for example, an entry-level construction manager might be assisting with, things like coordinating deliveries. Maybe they're putting together those initial cost estimates, or they're providing support to the team that's managing all the subcontractors.
So they're like really getting their feet wet, learning all the ropes from the more experienced people. What about someone who's kind of reached that like junior construction manager level?
So a junior construction manager would probably be planning and coordinating like smaller projects, maybe more independently, kind of taking on more ownership from start to finish. They might also be developing more, those detailed cost estimates, and then even assisting with like the bidding process for new projects.
Okay, so they're stepping up, bigger responsibilities. And then what's the view from the top look like? What kind of things is a senior construction manager handling?
At that level, you're leading the charge on those major projects.
Right.
You're making those high-level decisions about budgets, timelines. You're the one negotiating those big contracts. And then you're also probably mentoring more junior staff, sharing all that expertise you've picked up, and like guiding that next generation of construction managers.
Wow, talk about like working your way up from the foundation to the penthouse. That's a pretty inspiring career trajectory. But the guide also talks about like professional organizations and certifications. Can you explain why those are so important in this field?
They're key for career advancement and for like just staying on top of everything that's going on in the industry. So, for example, joining something like the Construction Management Association of America, the CMAA, that can connect you with mentors who've been there, done that. It can open doors to new job opportunities. And it also just keeps you updated on like all the latest trends in construction management.
So it's not even just what you know, it's who you know. Andy, you've got to stay on top of your game. What about certifications? Are there any that are like especially valuable for, somebody who wants to be a construction manager?
So the Certified Construction Manager designation, the CCM, that's like the gold standard.
Okay.
It's a super rigorous process that proves you have that high level of knowledge. You've got the experience to back it up, and you're committed to ethical practices, which is so important in this field.
It's like earning a black belt in construction management. I bet
Exactly.
that opens some doors.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Having that CCM on your resume, it tells employers, like, okay, this person is serious, they're committed to their professional development, and it can significantly boost, your credibility, but then also your earning potential.
So definitely worth looking into for sure. Speaking of earning potential, so this RoleCatcher guide, they mention a median salary, but what's the realistic range for a construction manager? Because I'm guessing experience, location, the size of the projects they're managing, that all factors in.
Yeah, you're totally right. It's definitely not like a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. The guide mentions a median salary around $97,180, but that's just a starting point, really.
Right.
Somebody who's like managing a massive skyscraper project in New York City, they're going to be earning way more than like a construction manager who's just starting out maybe in a smaller market working on, more residential projects.
Right. Makes sense. Bigger projects, bigger budgets, bigger paychecks.
Exactly. And then, of course, your experience level plays a huge role as well. As you gain more experience, you're managing larger teams, you're successfully delivering those more complex projects, your salary is going to reflect all of that.
So there's definitely potential to build a like seriously lucrative career in this field, but we'd be like doing a disservice if we didn't go back to those challenges that are outlined in this guide, the long hours, the stress. Can you tell me a little bit more about what a construction manager really needs to be prepared for?
So construction projects, they don't always stick to that neat 9 to 5 schedule. You've got to be prepared for evening meetings, maybe some weekend site visits, and then of course you've got those like occasional emergency calls when something unexpected happens on the site, which it will.
So it sounds like you've got to be pretty passionate about this field to like really handle all that.
Passion definitely helps, but it also takes a certain kind of personality. Someone who doesn't just survive under pressure, but thrives. Someone who loves solving those complex puzzles, and someone who gets a real sense of satisfaction from seeing a project come together, like literally from the ground up.
So you're not just building structures, you're building relationships, right? With your team, with the clients, like with everybody who's involved in making this project happen.
Exactly. And that's why communication skills are absolutely essential in this job,
Mhm.
because you are that bridge between the client's vision, what the architect has designed, and then how the construction crew is actually going to execute it all.
That's a lot of different personalities and perspectives to manage. It takes like real finesse to keep everybody on the same page and, moving in the right direction.
It really does. You need to be able to explain, like, sometimes complex technical details to people who might not have that technical background.
Yeah.
You might have to mediate any conflicts that come up,
Yeah.
and then just keep everyone informed about the project's progress and any hiccups along the way.
It's like you're a conductor, a diplomat, and a therapist all in one.
Yeah, you could say that. It's a very demanding role, but it is incredibly rewarding. There's nothing quite like seeing a project go from those initial sketches to a real, tangible building.
So speaking of rewarding, what does this guide say about job satisfaction for construction managers? Is it actually as fulfilling as it like sounds?
The guide really gets it right. It talks about this really unique sense of accomplishment that comes from, seeing a project all the way through. You start with those blueprints, and then you end up with this finished structure.
Wow.
You're literally shaping the skyline in some cases.
Yeah, and I bet there's never really a dull moment, right? Because every single project comes with its own like unique set of challenges and rewards.
Exactly. This is a career for someone who thrives on variety, problem solving, and seeing those tangible results of their work.
We talk about like BIM and VR changing the game, but the RoleCatcher guide also mentions that like sustainability is becoming more and more important in the construction industry. So what does that actually mean for, someone who's thinking about becoming a construction manager?
Sustainability isn't just a trend anymore. It's like a core value in construction now. Clients are looking for buildings that are environmentally responsible, and then you've got governments who are implementing like stricter regulations all the time.
So it's not just what you build, it's how you build it.
Exactly. Construction managers need to be really knowledgeable about sustainable building materials. They need to know how to maximize energy efficiency in their designs. And they need to understand green building certifications, like LEED.
And LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design, right?
That's right. And it's become the global benchmark for sustainable building. There are different levels of LEED certification. And it's becoming essential for construction managers to know how to incorporate those principles into their projects.
So a construction manager who's really knowledgeable about all of that has like a serious competitive edge in today's job market.
Well, for sure. It shows that you're committed to innovation. You're thinking about efficiency, responsible building practices, and those are qualities that clients and employers, they really value now.
We've covered so much ground here, from like what skills you need to the challenges you're going to face, those trends shaping the industry, and of course, the potential rewards of this career path. But for our listeners who are like ready to roll up their sleeves and dive headfirst into this world, what advice does this RoleCatcher guide actually offer for landing a job in construction management?
They give some really solid advice in the guide. I think, first and foremost, gain as much hands-on experience as you possibly can. So internships are great. Entry-level positions, even just volunteering on construction projects could be super valuable. All of that gives you practical experience that will really make your resume stand out.
Nothing beats real-world experience, right?
Exactly. It shows employers that you're not afraid of hard work. You're eager to learn. And they also highlight the importance of networking, which we kind of touched on with those professional organizations.
So attend those industry events, connect with people, polish up that LinkedIn profile.
Exactly. Building those relationships can open so many doors, job opportunities, mentorships, and just valuable knowledge you wouldn't get otherwise. Another great tip they give is to showcase your skills through a professional portfolio.
So instead of just like a traditional resume, you mean like a portfolio that kind of shows off what they can do as a construction manager?
Yeah, think of it like a visual representation of your skills, all that experience you've built up. So you could include like photos of completed projects, really showcase those impressive structures you helped build. You could include like 3D models from projects you've worked on, especially if you've used BIM that really highlights those technical skills. And then even like testimonials from satisfied clients. It adds that personal touch, builds credibility.
It's like a highlight reel of your construction management career, a way to really show, not just tell, what you're capable of.
Exactly. And then finally, the guide really stresses the importance of continuous learning, which makes sense, right?
Yeah, especially in a field like this, there's always new technologies, those regulations are always changing. A construction manager's really got to stay ahead of the curve.
For sure. So the guide really encourages aspiring construction managers to keep their skills sharp, their knowledge up to date. So attend workshops, go for those more advanced certifications, maybe even think about an advanced degree. Anything to stay at the forefront of the industry.
Because a construction manager who's really committed to that lifelong learning is going to be so valuable, especially as things change so fast.
Absolutely. It shows you're adaptable, you're hungry for knowledge, dedicated to professional growth. Those are the qualities that employers are going to notice.
Okay, so for our listeners who are now like totally picturing themselves in a hard hat, leading a team, creating these amazing buildings, maybe even getting that CCM designation, what's the biggest takeaway you hope they walk away with from this deep dive?
I think the guide says it best. Embrace technology. Never stop learning. And don't be afraid to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty. Construction management, it's about more than just like the technical stuff. It's about leadership. It's about adaptability. And it's about that drive to take a vision and make it a reality.
That's such a great point to end on. This deep dive has been so, so insightful. It's definitely clear that construction management is a super challenging, but ultimately like incredibly rewarding career path for those who are up for the challenge, of course.
Absolutely. And hey, who knows, maybe one of our listeners will be leading the construction of the next iconic skyscraper.
Yeah.
Or a whole sustainable community or, whatever amazing project they set their mind to.
Love that. A huge thank you to our expert for sharing all of their incredible knowledge with us today. And to all our listeners, remember, knowledge is power. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those brains building.